So this is to introduce you to some free software for creating graphs similar to those created on your graphing calculator that allows you to create documents on your computer with graphs in them, or actually just save a graph to a file. So first of all, you'll need to go to the URL www.padawan.dk/graph. So the page looks something like this. Over on the left, you can download, and then go ahead and select the download, and you can install it onto your computer. Once you have it on your computer, I want to show you a little bit about how to use the software. When you open it up, basically you'll see a screen with the Cartesian coordinate plane on it. If you go over to the axes, you can then set up your x-axis, your y-axis. You can play with the settings. You can put legends on it. How you want the style of your axes. If you're using trigonometry, whether you want to work in radians or degrees. You can choose a background color. You can change the color of the axes and the color of the grid. So if I would prefer my axes to be purple, I can change them to be purple there. Okay, so the default is the red. And then you can also do a logarithmic scale. You can change your axes to be in terms of pi. So if I want my axes to go from -2 pi to 2 pi in the x direction, if I just put those in and don't change anything, it will keep the scale as basically integers. However, I can come down here and check the box to show as multiples of pi, and then I can say I want my tick units, so those are the numbers, the 2, 4, 6, and 8 down here on the x-axis, to be every pi over 2. I can express that, and then we can see now, instead of having those ticks on the x-axis at the even integers, we've got them now at -pi over 2, -pi, and so forth. Notice that the grid isn't aligning, so I can come back in and I can do the same thing with the grid. And I get a nice picture like this. Now let's say that I want to graph a trigonometric function. So I can go to Function and Insert a Function. And this does a wide variety of functions. I'm not going to explain them all right now. But let's say I want to graph 4 times cosine of x over 2. I can leave the rest of this blank, and it will just go ahead and graph the function in the window. Let's say, though, that I only want that to be graphed from -pi to pi. Then I enter those in, and now I only get the portion of the graph from -pi to pi. And up here it gives me a legend that tells me which graph is which color. I can go back and click on my function, and let's say I want to include the function value at -pi, but I do not want to include the function value at pi. Then at the endpoints I can put a solid circle, and at the right endpoint I can put an open circle. Okay, and so it will look like that. Now let's say I want to insert another function along with this. Maybe I want to do a piecewise defined function. So I'm going to insert something simple like maybe the line y equals x. But I want this to start at pi. So I want the line y equals x, but I only want it to start over here at pi. And to make things easier to kind of visualize, I'm going to change the color. I'm going to make it a turquoise color. So now I can see the line y equals x, and let's say that I'm going to go ahead and include that endpoint. So I see here for my piecewise function, if x is pi, that I'm using the function x rather than the function involving the trigonometric function. Okay. Now let's say I want to save my file because I need to submit my file. I'm going to go to File and Save As. And then I'll choose a particular folder. I have this going to a folder for this class called Graphs. And this is just an example that I'm showing you, so I named it Example. And notice that it saves the file as a graph file type GRF. So I'm going to click Save. And now it's saved as a file and it can be submitted into the homework system. Another thing I can do is I can actually copy and paste this graph into a Word document or other document by clicking on Edit and Copy Image. Once my image has been copied, then I do need to be a little careful. I have to add, if I go and I just hit paste, I see my document, but it's copied as a picture, which means I cannot edit it. It's a static image, like a screenshot. Okay. As an alternative, though, I can come here to paste, and I can paste special. And notice that one of the options is a graph system object. If I paste that way, and let me resize this so that it's not too big for the page, it'll actually link the picture back to graph so that I can open my graph directly from my Word document. So what happens in this case is if I double click on my graph, it opens up my picture from that original file. And let's say I actually forgot that there were 3 parts to this piecewise function and realized after I'd done all this work that I needed to go in and add something else. I can click on my image and reopen it. Now it will not change the original file, but it will change the image in the document. So let's say we want to go in and add one more function, a third piece for over here between -2 pi and pi. So let's say we put in something like sine of x, something basic. And we want this to go from -2 pi to pi. And I'm not going to worry about a left starting endpoint over here, but at the right endpoint, since I want it to be a function, I need to put an open circle. And I don't want it the same color as what I already have, so I'll go with maybe a purple. Now notice what happened. I wasn't very careful when I put in my domain. So notice that I went from -2 pi to pi. I want that to actually be -pi. So it's very easy to go in and change that by just clicking on the function itself. And there's my new image with the correct pieces. And my legend over here reminding me what each function represents. Now I can turn that off if I right click on the box with the legend, I can, right now you can see show legend is checked. I can turn that off. Okay. Alright, so then I can file, and exit, and notice that now my graph is correct. So keep in mind that when I do this, it's only been changed here in the document. If I go back into the original file, that piece will not be there. There are many options here for different things that we can do. For now, about the only other thing I want to introduce you to is the ability to insert a text label. So if I click on that, it provides me the opportunity to type in labels. So for example, f of x equals x, if for some reason, and I can change the font size and all of that, I want to label, I can put that next to the part of the graph it illustrates. If I want to label a point, I can label a point, and I can actually use the equation editor, which provides me access to special characters like the symbol for pi. So I could come in and select pi right there, and then exit, and that point would, I'm doing the pi 0. I would need to fix the size, but I just want to show you, and that point actually goes right there. Easy to label. You can do all kinds of interesting things with this software. I will go ahead and stop now. We'll be revisiting and seeing how we can use it for other activities as we progress through the semester.